Hey everyone. Bet you already know strength training's good for you. And mobility work too. But have you ever thought about like putting them together?
Right.
It can be amazing. And I'm not just talking about for athletes or anything. This expert podcast I listened to, it kind of blew my mind how combining strength and mobility can totally change how you move every single day. We're talking picking up groceries without hurting your back, or even just, getting up from the couch a bit more gracefully. I'm really excited to dig into this one. So
Yeah, it's a fascinating connection. Think of it this way. Strength without mobility? It's like having this super powerful engine, but it's stuck in like a rusty old truck. Might have all that power, but it's not going to run smoothly.
right, it's not getting you very far.
Exactly. And then you have mobility without strength. Well, that's like a fancy steering wheel with no engine at all. Looks all nice and shiny, but
It's going nowhere.
you gotta go it.
Okay, that makes total sense. And the podcast had all these examples that I know you'll relate to. Have you ever tried to like lift a heavy suitcase into that overhead bin on a plane? And your shoulder just feels like it's about to pop out?
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. That's the perfect example of where both shoulder strength and thoracic mobility are super important.
Thoracic mobility.
Yeah, it's how well your upper back can rotate. If you don't have that, you're putting a ton of stress on your shoulder.
Makes sense. So it's not just about the shoulder muscles themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, what about like when you get that achy lower back after, spending the weekend gardening or something?
Could be weak glutes and tight hamstrings. Those tight hamstrings, they pull on your pelvis, and that can put strain on your lower back.
Wow, it all connects.
It does. It really does. And it's super common, but you don't have to just live with it.
Okay, you've convinced me. Strength and mobility, they're like a power couple. But where do we even begin with combining them?
The most important thing is control before load. That's the golden rule. It basically means you got to master an exercise's full range of motion with perfect form before you even think about adding any weight.
So it's all about quality, not just how much you can lift.
You got it.
Yeah.
It's about quality movement. And that is the foundation of preventing injuries.
Okay, so control means like using the right muscles, moving smoothly.
Exactly.
No pain, right?
Right. It's about feeling those muscles working through the whole movement. Like if you're doing a squat, you want to make sure your knees are tracking over your toes, back is straight, core is engaged. You should feel a stretch in your hamstrings, glutes at the bottom of the squat, but no pain in your joints. Once you can do that consistently, then you can think about adding weight.
Okay, that makes sense. So were there any specific exercises in the podcast that stood out to you?
Absolutely. There's this one called the deep goblet squat with a pause. It was really interesting.
Deep goblet squat.
Yeah, imagine holding a weight close to your chest. And you squat down as low as you can, holding for a few seconds at the bottom.
So it's like a regular squat, but you're holding the weight in front of you.
Right. And that actually helps your form by counterbalancing you.
Wow.
And that pause at the bottom, that really challenges your mobility, strengthens those deep core muscles.
I can imagine.
And it's not just your legs and core. This can also be great for hip and ankle mobility.
Oh, wow. Ankle mobility. I never really thought about how important that is.
It's crucial. Limited ankle mobility can affect everything, from how deep you can squat to your balance, even your risk of injuries.
It's amazing how everything is connected. So besides that deep goblet squat, any other exercises that grabbed your attention?
There was one called the Cossack squat. I thought it was pretty cool.
Cossack squat. That sounds,
I know, the name sounds a bit intimidating. But it's basically just a deep side lunge. You step out to the side and squat down, keeping your other leg straight.
Okay, I can picture that.
It's awesome for building single leg strength, which, let's face it, we need for pretty much everything, from walking to climbing stairs. And because you're moving laterally, it hits those inner and outer thigh muscles that regular squats don't always target.
So we're working on strength and mobility at the same time.
Exactly.
I love that. But let's be real for a second. I know you're probably thinking, where am I going to find time to add all this into my routine?
Yeah, I get it. Everyone's busy. But the great thing about strength mobility work is it's really adaptable.
So we don't have to like completely overhaul our schedules.
Nope, not at all.
Okay, give me some options here.
Well, you could dedicate maybe 1 or 2 workouts a week, specifically to strength and mobility. Or you could just add 1 or 2 of these combo exercises into your regular strength training.
And if I'm like really short on time.
Even 5 or 10 minutes of targeted movements each day can make a difference.
Okay, so it's not all or nothing. Every little bit helps.
Exactly. It's about consistency.
I love that. Okay, before we move on, I know you always have some words of wisdom when it comes to new exercises. What kind of mistakes should we avoid so we don't hurt ourselves?
One of the biggest mistakes I see is people rushing through the movements. Remember, control before load. You really need to slow down, feel those muscles working through the whole range of motion. Don't just focus on getting the weight up or down. Move with intention, with control.
Yeah, I can see myself doing that, getting a little overzealous.
It's a natural tendency, especially if you're used to, traditional strength training. But with strength mobility training, you're not just trying to lift heavy, you're trying to improve your mobility at the same time.
Right, so that's a different mindset.
It is. It requires a more mindful approach.
So quality over quantity.
Exactly.
What else should we watch out for?
Another common mistake is focusing too much on just one side of things, either strength or mobility. Some people, they think, oh, I'm already pretty flexible, and they just neglect strength training altogether. But flexibility without strength can actually make you more prone to injury.
Oh, that's interesting. And I guess on the other hand, you could be super strong, but so tight that you can barely move.
Exactly. It's all about finding that balance, that sweet spot between strength and mobility.
This has been so eye-opening. I'm already thinking about all the ways I can use this in my own workouts. But before we dive into all that, I want to leave you with something to think about. What's one area in your everyday life where you feel a little restricted or your movement's a bit awkward? Could incorporating some of these strength and mobility principles help? Hold on to that thought, and we'll be back in a flash to explore more.
Welcome back. Ready for more on strength and mobility?
Oh, definitely. I'm already feeling inspired to move a bit more mindfully. Before we get back to those cool exercises we were talking about, the podcast had this whole section on warming up. It sounds like dynamic stretches are super important for this type of training.
Absolutely. They even recommended this specific stretch called the world's greatest stretch.
Okay, world's greatest stretch. That's a bold name.
I know, right? The name's a bit much. But honestly, it kind of lives up to it.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What makes it so great?
Well, it targets a lot of key areas all at once. You start standing with your feet together, take a big step forward with your right foot, and lower into a lunge. Put your left hand on the floor inside your right foot. Then you twist your upper body to the right, reaching your right arm straight up.
So it's like a lunge, but with a twist.
Exactly. And that twist is what makes it so good. It really helps open up your hips and thoracic spine.
That makes sense. So how many of these world's greatest stretches should we be doing?
They recommended doing 5 on each side before moving on to your strength mobility exercises. It's amazing how much just this one stretch can do. Really improves your range of motion, preps your body for those harder movements.
Sorry, that's going straight into my warm-up routine. Okay, let's get back to those strength mobility exercises. I know the podcast mentioned a ton, but are there any you'd recommend we start with?
One that I really liked was the Jefferson curl. Might sound a bit intimidating, but it's actually a gentle, controlled movement.
Okay, break it down for me. What exactly is a Jefferson curl?
So imagine standing with your feet, hip-width apart, knees slightly bent. Then you slowly start to curl your chin towards your chest. And you roll down like one vertebra at a time, as if you're trying to make your spine into a C shape. Keep your legs straight, but don't lock your knees.
So you're basically rolling down towards your toes.
Yeah, but the focus is on articulating your spine, really moving each segment. You go as far as you can until you feel that stretch in your hamstrings. And then slowly reverse it, roll back up to standing.
Okay, that sounds doable. What are the benefits of this one?
It's fantastic for hamstring flexibility and spinal mobility. A lot of people have stiff hamstrings, lower backs, and that can lead to all sorts of problems.
When at that lower back pain we talked about.
Exactly. And the Jefferson curl, it helps to address those issues. It lengthens the hamstrings, mobilizes the spine.
Okay, I'm definitely going to try that one. Any other exercises from the podcast that you thought were, especially noteworthy?
There was the Turkish get-up. I found that fascinating. It is a bit more complex than the Jefferson curl, but it's worth learning. It's a true full-body exercise, combines strength, mobility, even coordination.
Okay, I'm all ears. How do you do a Turkish get-up?
All right, so you start lying on your back, one leg bent, foot flat on the floor. You hold a kettlebell or a dumbbell in one hand directly above your shoulder, arm straight, and then basically you use a series of movements to press that weight up and stand up, all while keeping your eyes on the weight the whole time.
Wow, that sounds challenging.
It is. It requires core strength, shoulder stability, hip mobility, all working together, like in perfect harmony. It's almost like a moving meditation in a way.
So it's a mental workout too.
Yeah, you really need focus and control. And because you're moving through all these different planes of motion, it's a fantastic way to improve your overall coordination and balance.
I love that. It's like a workout for your brain A&D body. Okay, before we move on, I have a confession to make. I can be a bit clumsy sometimes.
Well, who isn't clumsy every now and then?
True. But I'm wondering, could some of these strength and mobility exercises actually help with that? Improve my coordination, make me less likely to trip over my own feet?
Absolutely. The Turkish get-up, for example, is great for coordination.
Yeah.
And there's another exercise they mentioned, perfect for you. Lunges with rotation.
Okay, lunges, I know those, but the rotation part.
As you step forward into the lunge, you just twist your upper body towards your front leg. It's a simple addition, but it makes a big difference. Really works your core, improves that rotational mobility.
Rotational mobility. That sounds important.
It is. Think about how many times you rotate your torso throughout the day. Reaching for something behind you, turning to look over your shoulder, even getting out of bed. Having good rotational mobility, it's essential for moving freely, preventing injuries.
Wow, you're right. I never really thought about it like that. So these lunges with rotation, they're working my legs, my core, and my rotational mobility.
Exactly. 3 birds, 1 stone.
I love it.
Speaking of wins, let's talk about another classic, the single-leg Romanian deadlift.
Okay, I've heard of Romanian deadlifts, but what makes the single-leg version so special?
It's fantastic for hamstring strength, balance, hip mobility. It's also a perfect example of that control before load principle. So you start by standing on one leg, slight bend in your knee, keeping your back straight, core engaged. You hinge at your hips. Lower your torso towards the ground, reaching your opposite hand towards your toes. You should feel a stretch in the back of that standing leg.
So it's like a one-legged deadlift.
Exactly. And that single leg stance really challenges your balance.
I bet. That would definitely help with my clumsiness.
And it strengthens your hamstrings and glutes, which are key for supporting your lower back, preventing injuries. Plus, you're improving your hip mobility, which, again, is so crucial for just everyday movement.
All right, I'm sold. This is great. So we've got the Jefferson curl for hamstring flexibility and spinal mobility, the Turkish get-up for full body strength and coordination, lunges with rotation for core strength and rotational mobility, and the single-leg Romanian deadlift for hamstring strength, balance, and hip mobility. That's quite the workout.
It is. And remember, these are just a few examples. The podcast we're looking at today, it mentioned tons of other exercises. You can explore, see what works best for you.
This is so much more than just exercise. It's about moving better, feeling better, living better.
You got it. But before we get too carried away with all these awesome exercises, there's one more important thing we need to talk about.
Ooh, a cliffhanger. Don't leave us hanging. What else is there?
All right, I'm not going to leave you hanging. That last bit was all about cooling down after your strength and mobility session, just as important as warming up, really.
Okay, so we shouldn't just drop the mic and walk away after all of those Jefferson curls and Turkish get-ups.
Exactly. Your body needs a little TLC after all that work.
So what's the best way to cool down then? Spill the beans.
The podcast recommends using static stretches. Those are the ones where you hold the position for a while, usually about 30 seconds or so. Helps your muscles relax and, increase flexibility.
Oh yeah, I know those. But I always thought of stretching as a separate thing, not really part of a workout.
I get that. I used to think the same way. But with strength and mobility training, it's different. Static stretches after your workout, they can really enhance the benefits of those dynamic stretches you did in your warm-up.
Interesting. So it's like a bookend situation. Dynamic stretches to prep, static stretches to recover.
You got it. And the cool thing is, those static stretches can actually improve your mobility even more. You're lengthening those muscles while they're still nice and warm from your workout.
Okay, I'm liking this. What kind of static stretches are we talking about?
Well, one that's super effective and easy to do is the seated forward fold. Just sit on the floor, legs out in front of you, reach forward towards your toes, keep your back as straight as you can.
Oh yeah, classic seated forward fold. I remember doing those back in gym class.
It's a classic for a reason. Great for your hamstrings and really your whole back body, calves, spine, everything.
My hamstrings are already thanking me. What other static stretches would you recommend?
Another good one, especially if you tend to get tight hips, is the pigeon pose. You're basically starting a tabletop position. Then bring one knee forward, behind your wrist. Extend your other leg straight back. You can even fold forward over your front leg if you want a deeper stretch.
Okay, that one sounds a little more advanced. I might need to Google that. But hey, I'm willing to try anything for these tight hips.
It's worth a shot, for sure. Just remember, listen to your body. Don't push it too far.
Right, no pain, no gain doesn't apply to stretching.
Exactly. Gentle and steady wins the race.
Any other stretches you want to mention before we wrap up?
One more that I think is really important, especially if you spend a lot of time sitting at a desk. the thoracic spine twist.
Ooh, my upper back is feeling that right now.
This one helps with mobility in your upper back, which is so important because, we tend to get that hunched over posture from sitting so much.
Okay, tell me more about this thoracic spine twist. I need this in my life.
It's easy. You can do it sitting or standing. Just sit up tall, hands behind your head, then gently twist your upper body to one side, keeping your hips facing forward. Hold it for a few breaths, then twist to the other side.
Oh yeah, I can feel that already, opening up my chest and shoulders. I love it. So we've got dynamic stretches to warm up, all those strength and mobility exercises to get us moving better, and static stretches to cool down. This is great. But you know what I'm wondering? How do we know if all this is actually working? How can we track our progress?
That's a great question. And the good news is there are a few ways to measure your progress.
Okay, I love seeing tangible results. Tell me more.
Well, one of the easiest ways is just to pay attention to your range of motion. Can you squat deeper now than you could before? Can you reach further overhead without feeling that strain?
Those little victories.
Exactly. Those are the things that keep you motivated. And of course, you can also track your strength gains. Can you lift heavier weights, do more reps? Those are all signs you're getting stronger.
So we're not just feeling better, we're actually seeing improvements.
You got it. But I think, honestly, the most rewarding way to track your progress is just to notice how your everyday movements feel. Do you wake up less stiff and achy? Can you bend down to tie your shoes without feeling like you're going to pull something?
Those are the results that really matter, the things that make everyday life easier, more enjoyable.
Exactly. It's about moving through the world with more grace, ease, and resilience.
Speaking of resilience, I think the biggest challenge with any new fitness routine is staying motivated. Life gets busy, we're tempted to skip workouts. How do we keep that momentum going?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think one of the most important things is to focus on the intrinsic rewards. It's not about achieving some arbitrary aesthetic goal or fitting into a certain size.
So it's not about fitting into those skinny jeans, darn.
Well, if that happens, it's a bonus. But the real focus should be on how this training makes you feel.
I like that. It's about feeling good in your own skin, whatever size you are.
Exactly. It's about moving with more ease, feeling more confident in your body, and just having the energy and resilience to tackle whatever life throws your way.
It's like feeling like a superhero in your own life.
You got it.
Yeah.
And remember, progress isn't always linear. There will be days you feel amazing, and days where it feels like you're back to square one. That's totally normal.
So don't be too hard on yourself if you miss a workout or have an off day.
Exactly. Just keep showing up, keep moving, and celebrate those small wins along the way.
And to bring it back to that thought-provoking question we asked earlier, what's one area in your everyday life where you feel restricted or your movement's a bit awkward? Could some of these strength and mobility principles help? I encourage you to think about that, see where it leads you.
It's an invitation to approach movement with a sense of, curiosity and playfulness, to explore what your body can really do, and just discover the joy of moving well.
That's a beautiful way to wrap up this deep dive. I hope you've enjoyed exploring the world of strength and mobility with us. And remember, it's not about becoming some super athlete. It's about moving through life with more confidence, ease, and resilience. Until next time, keep exploring, keep moving, and keep diving deep.